Alright, hello everyone, welcome to another post commentary. This one being for a topic that I really liked, which is going over perks for Splatoon 4. So, some of you might not know, but this was based off of a different video. And I know I talk about it in the video already, but this is passive abilities for every class where I come up with one ability for it based off of, Overwatch, and then perks was based off of Overwatch 2's perks more recently happening. And it was obviously based off this, but this video is something that's very special to me because I got to be featured on YouTube as a gaming creator on the rise or something like that. And a clip from this video, specifically the undercover one, I believe, over here, got posted to it. And that was honestly just really cool. So it's nice to be able to make a video again that was such a big part of my career. Anyway, the scope of the video is obviously larger this time. There's 2 new classes and there's 2 different perks for each of them. There was a good amount of footage that I really liked for it, and honestly, this was just a topic that I was very passionate about. I had this featured on the channel for a while because I really did care about this, and I felt this was a really good video opener. This is one of these things we've been doing with intros for a bit where we have like a clip play out before or some kind of bit, and this is the bit we have here showing off the charger perk. There was a bit of a debate on which one we were going to use, but I very much easily settled on this one. YouTube loves just giving me interruptions when I'm recording these out of nowhere. So another fun fact, this is the old thumbnail we had for the video, which is kind of immortalized here, but I've actually updated it to this one here. And you can see some of the thumbnail improvements that we've done, which is basically less text on the screen, have everything be larger, and have it be more simplified. And yeah, I think this does look so much better. So this was a really nice factor of having 2 abilities that we could pick from. Sometimes a problem that would come up is there would be some kind of idea that we really liked, and it would work for almost all of them, but there would be some weapon in the class that wouldn't work for the ability at all, and it would kind of ruin it. But here, it being, a little bit more specialized could make sense. And then obviously this was one where we had to show the example of this with actual background footage by muting the song and having it play. Or in this case, the song was toned back. I did debate cutting the song altogether, but I think you get the picture with it being this quiet. To one of Splatoon 3's classes, the Stringers. This might be another thing you'll notice in the video, is the weapon classes don't really have a particular order, and that's because I tried to mix in some of the ones I found more interesting toward the start of the video to hold viewer attention. I don't do this very often. Usually I do just go in weapon class order, but in this case I did feel it would really help for selling the idea for those new to it to have it actually be things that are more interesting or easier to understand or more flashy abilities up first. It doesn't mean everything at the beginning is more flashy and gradually gets less flashy, but it tends to be more condensed near the start of the video, if that makes sense. Let's reward the stray hits more. Any hit from the Stringers will now give you a thermal link effect for about 5 seconds, giving you better tools to go for crazier shots. This was a pretty obvious one. Thermal is very helpful with bows, and this is one that I wanted to do on it. But the second one had to lean to more supportive playstyles because Reflux is supportive, Wellstring is supportive, and even Tri-Stringer, one of the things I see talked positively about it tends to be the Inkline kit getting like 2,000 plus paint. So yeah, special charge for getting picks tends to make sense. This was also an idea that was on chargers in the 2021 video, where you would get a kill and it would help out with building special, since chargers struggle with painting a bit more. But I think it fits way better on bows, given the charger effects ended up being a lot more flashy in this one. So this got to play into the more well-rounded mix of roles between location utility and charge-up effects. And it's, again, one of the things that I think makes this system more interesting, because now we can take chargers and bows, and it further solidifies the classes as having unique identities from each other. This was obviously one of my favorite effects. Honestly, both of Dooley's effects were. Being able to enhance the rolls is just really fun. Dooley dodge rolls are just prime for things you can enhance and buff and change, and I really hope the devs do more with it one day. This one became my favorite. I did really like both of them, but the idea of resetting your end lag with a kill is huge, especially for something like Tetra Dooley's. But I felt this one would be balanced out a little bit more just by the fact that obviously if you only have one roll like Dowser, canceling the end lag is going to be huge, because you don't have as many to work off of. So I think it ends up balancing itself out a bit, but that's something I did a few times in this video where the perk might change a little bit based on, what it was. So for example, Dowser got more damage when we did the dodge roll attack because it only has one roll. So stuff like that was factored in. Other things can be like the percentage decrease in charge time. The line marker one was another really cool idea. This was something that I kind of came up with out of nowhere. I had the other perk in from the very beginning, but I really like the idea of it being a line marker, and I was also a part of making this shot happen very smoothly. I'm basically sitting behind Lucy with a line marker being told to time it and then have someone walk through it right after. So this is a clip that took a little bit of syncing up to look as good as it does, but I really like the idea behind it. I think it's a very cool effect. The main problem is just balancing it with the fast-firing chargers, but I talk about that a little bit in the video here. Aimbot. Okay, just kidding, that's way too broken. I'm not sure how I feel about this bit. I wanted to throw an aimbot as a joke, but I feel like it would be really obvious that it would be a joke if I did it. So I kind of just went for, okay, just make it a quick bit and move on. If it doesn't land, it doesn't really waste people's time. That tends to be something I'll do if I'm not too sure how a comedic bit like that will end. I'll just be like, well, just make it fast. If people don't find it funny, it goes back to the normal script immediately. Doesn't waste anyone's time. How about the next shot would have a charge time reduction of about 25%, giving a high playmaking opportunity for a follow-up shot after getting a quick kill. This is just one of those things that's the rule of fun. Like, maybe it won't be super practical in competitive play, but like, okay, if that's the case, just choose the other perk. This would be cool. This would be fun. It would be like, I want these to be something where, you know, you can't do this with every perk, obviously, but I want people to read this and instead of going, oh, this is a small stat increase, I want people to look at it and go, oh shit, that's cool. I want to see what that's like. You know, that's how I would want a system like this to be implemented, and it's how I feel about perks in other games, really. If it's like a small stat increase, I don't care. If I can do something cool with it, though, if I get some new option, it's really fun. And I tried my absolute hardest to make that as many of the perks as I could. We were able to land it. Up next are the Splatonas. This is one I had a lot of fun picking out. With Sword Order perks serving as an inspiration for part of this video, a big question to me is which class should get a squid roll attack? I got pushback on this because, oh, Splatonas are already so good, which, I mean, I guess, yeah. But, like, first off, perks are going to buff main weapon power across the board. So going, oh, Splatonas get more combos, it's insane. And not looking at the fact that, like, yeah, but also chargers can get a line marker every time they shoot for location. And, like, dualies have a dodge roll attack. And bows charge their special or get thermal or whatever. Like, you can't ignore the other abilities. Like, this is inherently making main weapon power stronger. And if anything, that's kind of the point. Main weapon power should be stronger. But yeah, these two buffs were pretty easy. One from side order, one that was like some scrapped or some ability in the game's code at some point. And the next up is Blasters, which this is one that gets to copy an effect from last time, which is the 1 second unconditional faster respawn. Pretty much holds true from last time. You know, I talked about this in 2021. It's a pretty simple idea. Blasters use QR. They're gear-dependent weapons. It opens some things up. If any weapon is going to get a it's okay to die a little bit more perk, it would be Blasters. It works for pretty much all of them outside of Rapid Pro. That's really about it. And that's where the other buff comes in, which is another really cool effect I like. The Ink Saver main effect. Now this is also good for all blasters, and I didn't spend much time on it, but this was also mainly for Rapid and Rapid Pro, now you might notice, or Clash. So like, the weapons that benefit least from the previous perk, you know, even if they're still useful, benefit more from this one. And again, it's another thing I really like about having multiple perks. Like, you can use that to make the effects overall more interesting, and I really like that. Brella is another one that was copy-pasted. I had it be health regen, so I won't say too much about this. It seems pretty obvious to increase shield HP, and I still stand by this buff being a cool idea, right? Obviously, it's a little bit extreme, but this is not damage up turning a weapon into, like, a kill option or something. The damage numbers would be balanced around it, and all Brellas do really suffer from this problem to some degree, so I think it would be a cool way to go about it. Obviously, Brella's got huge buffs, but especially at the time, Brellas were very undertuned. Obviously, it's a little bit better now. Recycle is a much more solid weapon, and Brella's pretty good too, so, like, you know, Brellas being horrible aren't really as much of a thing anymore, but I'd argue they're still not the most accessible class in the game. I'd say there's more work to be done. It's just not, it's no longer egregiously the worst class in the game anymore. But anyway, these are just some very, you know, specific damage numbers I did, so I kept Recycle and normal Brella separate from each other. I had the pellets increase without giving it its old max damage for Brella. Recycles is probably the least important. It doesn't really do a whole lot for it, but that's why, you know, the shield HP one comes in handy, obviously, or HP regeneration, since it has, you know, a more flimsy shield. Tenebrella gets the shield combo, and then Undercover gets a combo. So Recycle's the only one to not really gain any specific combo out of this. And this is also a nice part about having damage be a part of the perk instead of like a stackable ability is I can control exactly how much it's going to be. So I don't really have to worry about, you know, any unintended effects. You can know exactly how much it's going to do. Pretty simple here. I came up with the flicking idea because I wanted Inkbrush to have this perk too, and I felt this was a very sensible perk idea. So it had to be in a way that would work for the other options. And then the other one is damage overlapping, which again, looks like damage up on paper, but we're being very careful here. Again, I get control over the damage numbers, but also it's like a specific hitbox thing, right? This is specifically for being up close, and we went over the numbers here with each of the weapons so that it would be balanced here, which in this case does increase the flicks to kill with Octobrush and Inkbrush, but that is kind of the point of damage overlap. It's not like their hits to kill are increased outside of some absurd range. It's locked into this really close range fighting ability. We've had a whole game of Splatoon 1 to realize that that can, in fact, be balanced. And then I think I said increase instead of decrease here. Slightly increase their flicks to kill and DPS. This was just one of those where I really liked how the script was playing out. I didn't want to redo the script for it, so that's when I tend to do subtitles. No hard rule on that, but that's what it is. Splalings is up next. I don't think Splalings has anything particularly special. We're definitely running low on the effects here. This was one of the few times I just copied a normal ability, which I don't normally do, but I explain right here that, you know, but I explain right here that Splalings use so much run speed that it makes sense to do it. I wish I showed some Sendu Ink builds on it, though. That would have probably made it a little better. Like if I had a page just kind of scrolling down Splatling perks and showing how often people just have like 2 pures of run speed, or not 2 pures, have like 2 mains of run speed, that would have been good. And then the other perk was the, you know, similar MPU effect, toned it down. I toned it down slightly from Splatoon 2, but that's really about it. Very simple perks for Splatlings, and then we have Sloshers. I wanted the piercing effect from the Grisco machine, which is what I thought about before, but there was one big problem, and I talk about it here, and that is Explo. I wish I cleaned this up a little bit. I couldn't have it just be damage to objects, because that's what Object Shredder does, but now this is an extremely messy 3-part ability. In this case, concept was too far along, and I liked it. I think what I could have done is just say, screw it, Explosher doesn't get any bonus out of it. It just gets the 10% object damage increase, and that would have made it a little bit less complicated, and it makes sense. And then the jump height is just one I copied from the 2021 option. Makes sense for all the buckets. Very self-explanatory. Weapons don't have RNG, and they fire, and all that yada yada, and it won't go out of bounds, which is a very nice clip for it. Very simple for buckets. And then shooters, I mean, I'm just honest about it in the script. So this was another idea that I almost had for most of the video, which is having the perks have a trade-off, but it ended up being too complicated. However, since I could come up with literally nothing else for shooters, I just slapped it on here. So these get, you know, a trade-off plus and minus one. I think this one is probably one that I like, increased swim speed, but, you know, less special spam is generally going to be agreed to be healthier and more fun for the game. So that one's simple, but yeah, shooters basically got an entirely different thing because there's just so many, it's hard to come up with perks, and they're just by definition not as unique. So I think if this ever did happen for Splatoon 4, shooters would 100% be the largest barrier to actually making this happen. And yeah, pretty good video. Nice bit of work from Cookie and Lucy together to get it out. And overall, pretty simple. I really like the concept for it. I think the video came out very nicely. I don't really have too many major complaints or anything. It overall is just pretty fun. And it's a system I really do want to see. I was happy with the options I got to come up with. And this is just one of those video concepts where it all hinges on how creative I can be with the ideas. It's good to challenge myself. And I was happy with what I came up with. So yeah, overall, really good video.